On this episode of Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery, I asked the question, are you too busy earning a living to earn any real money?
Running a successful fee-based financial planning business is tough, and escaping the shackles of a commission-based financial planning practice is terrifying. When all you want to do is learn from those who know, learn from financial planners who are there on the front lines doing it each and every day. What if you could just open their kimono and take a look inside to learn what works and what doesn't? Now there's a place where the secrets to running a fee-based financial planning business are revealed to those who believe. Fee-based financial planning mastery. Ease your mind.
Hi everyone, it's Scott Plaskett here, and thanks for joining me. In this podcast, you will learn what's working and what's not in the world of fee-based financial planning. In each episode, I'm going to open my kimono and let you take an insider's look at what's working and what's not in my practice to help you take your business to the next level. I've been a fee-based certified financial planner since the early 90s, so believe me, I know the challenges you're facing. So get ready to learn not from a teacher, coach, or guru, but from a colleague who's on the front lines just like you. And I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my email internet newsletter to get the most up-to-date tips on how to build and grow your fee-based financial planning practice by going to feebasedfinancialplanningmastery.com. Hey everybody, I just wanted to give you a bit of an update on what's going on in my life. It's a pretty crazy time for me right now. Things are winding down and getting ready to get started all at the same time. Ski season, downhill skiing. As you may or may not know, I'm a downhill ski racer and had to put some of the racing. I was doing some training this year, but I had to put some racing on hold because my daughters got into the racing scene, and so they got involved on some traveling teams, and that just meant that my racing schedule had to be put on the back burner so that they could get to their races. So it was a phenomenal time, lots of fun. It's so great to watch the kids and these young racers and athletes get prepared, and just to see them go through what they go through when it comes to race day and getting ready, and sort of the whole process of waiting at the top of the hill for their turn, putting their bib on, looking at their bib number and determining, okay, I'm bib number 20 out of say 100 racers. That means the first round I'm going to go down 20th, but then on the second run they reverse the order and they're going to go down basically right at the end of the pack. So the course is a lot more chewed up, and it's interesting to watch them when they come down. At first, leading up to this, they didn't really have a lot of, I wouldn't say drive, but they just, it was more about skiing and having fun. And all of a sudden you put a timing component to the whole process, and now they're looking at their results going, I'd kind of like to be at the, top end of the pack. And I say, well, then if you want to do that, why don't you set some goals? Don't try to have a goal that gets you on the podium right away. But if you're in, say, the bottom quartile, then maybe we can get you into the next quartile, the third quartile. Or if you're in the third quartile consistently, why don't we try to find a way of getting you consistently into the second quartile? And so we started talking about goal setting, and that was an interesting experience when you start talking to your kids about goal setting and sort of what it takes to get there. And it doesn't happen overnight, but good things do take time. So that was kind of fun. So ski season for me, it's almost over. Spring skiing is going on right now, and we're having some fun doing that, which is great. Hockey season, again, for me, winding down. I play hockey on Thursday nights in a men's league that I just love. And anyways, that's not totally at a close yet, but it is. We're in the playoffs, and let's just say that our team doesn't really have a hope of making the final game. But in any event, we're having fun, and I'm loving going out and playing hockey and sort of living the dream, so to speak, with still being able to make it back to work the next day. What's coming up for me around the corner? Well, water ski season is right around the corner, and I'm really excited about that. This year, I ended off last year sort of going through some interesting times when it came to my water skiing. I did some clinics, some slalom ski clinics, and I'm now getting into the course. Not competing at any event right now, more competing against myself. but moved to a double boot system, which seems to make a huge difference. I can't believe I didn't do that earlier. But for any of you water skiers out there, if you haven't moved to a double boot on your slalom ski, that's something you may want to consider. It made a huge difference for me. And so I'm really looking forward to this season. I'm kind of shopping around right now for a new slalom water ski and don't know what I'm going to get yet, but I am leaning towards a couple nice ones. So looking forward to that, and biking season as well. I looked at my garage the other day and saw my bike on the bike stand and thought, wow, we're right around the corner. It's kind of, we're getting into what I call the sloppy season, which is those transition seasons in between the peak seasons, in between winter and summer. It's that sloppy time. It's when things are starting either to melt or get cold. But right now things are starting to melt, and in any event, biking season is around the corner. So I'm looking at potentially doing some more road riding this year. I'm a real mountain biker and do some mountain bike races every year. But one thing a really good cyclist said to me one day, he said, if you want to make yourself a better mountain biker, then get out on the road bike. And you know what? You really start thinking about that, and mountain biking is all about sort of big lungs and being able to make those the endurance of the peaks and valleys of the sort of the training that you go through. And I haven't really done a lot of road riding. It's more so because I just haven't had the time to, and I haven't put the money into a good road bike because I just don't want to buy a bike and then have it sit and collect dust in my basement. So, but this year, who knows? This year I'm seriously looking at some more road riding so it can, maybe, I guess my goal would be to place a little bit better when it comes to some of the races that I do on the mountain biking side. So I think the road riding might help with that. I've also started not intensively, but started incorporating some kettlebells into a workout schedule. So kettlebells, if you've ever done kettlebells, it's basically you're swinging a cannonball that's got a handle attached to it. And if you haven't done kettlebells, it's a whole new can of worms. Oh my gosh! I mean. Yeah, training with a kettlebell is something I've never done before, and it is a workout. Oh my goodness. Anyways, it's kind of fun. And another thing that I've just started trying, and I'll let you know how it goes, but my first attempt is going to be this weekend. I'm going to make some pork jerky. I found a great recipe for jerky, and so I'm trying to make my own jerky. I found a great place in Vancouver, which I order some beef and pork jerky from. That it's a Korean jerky place called BKH Jerky. And if you haven't ever tried that, oh boy, treat yourself to some of this stuff. It is phenomenal. For those of you in Canada who have seen the show The Dragon's Den, this is a beef jerky place that the Dragon's Den actually invested in, and the jerky is really some of the best jerky I've ever had in my entire life. So if you get a chance, definitely check out the BKH jerky and order the pork. I find the pork I just prefer it better. So I'm going to try my hat at making my own pork jerky. And I've also got a nice big pork shoulder that I'm going to turn into some pulled pork. So I've got that in the fridge right now in a nice brine that hopefully it'll be marinating for probably a good 12 hours. And then I'll get it slow cooking tomorrow, and we'll see how it goes. So that's sort of what my weekend is in store for. And the final thing that I've done over the last month or so is I have gravitated to a new coffee machine. And I may have talked about this before, but it's called an AeroPress. And if you haven't checked out the AeroPress, it is a great little machine. Now, it is a little bit more work when it comes to grinding your own beans and then pressing the coffee. And I've showed friends some of the friends that I know enjoy a good cup of coffee, the process, and they're like, oh my gosh, I wouldn't go through that process. But I tell you, when you compare that cup of coffee to what you'd get from either a Keurig machine or something that's more mass produced, there's nothing like it. It is just phenomenal coffee. The way the process works, and you find your favorite coffee bean. And anyways, if you haven't tried this, it's a very inexpensive little gadget. And the AeroPress, AERO Press, just go to aeropress.ca, I think it is, and order one, and you'll just love your next cup of coffee. It really is just a great one. I think the actual machine, I think it's been ranked or been recognized by the World Coffee competitions as one of the best methods for brewing a cup of coffee. So anyways, that's just kind of some stuff that's going on in my neck of the woods. Yeah, if you have any questions on anything I've just talked about there, or have any comments, love to hear from what you're doing, from what you're going to be doing over the next handful of months, and what sort of activities you guys are involved with. Because I know a lot of people in the financial industry seem to be involved in some pretty wacky and wonderful activities, and I think it's pretty cool when you can share some of your experiences there. So if you have any activities that you're interested in, and you'd be comfortable sharing about what you're doing, just go to the comments of this particular episode and just throw in there, hey, I'm going to be doing this summer, or taking advantage of this, or something unique that you're going to be doing. And it's kind of cool just to hear what other people are up to. So anyways, I have a huge show for you coming up now, so let's get to it.
And now for our feature segment.
Now, I want to start out with this episode by just giving a shout out to some people who have been communicating with me. And I love the feedback, and I love the questions and the conversations that start electronically. So I just want to give a shout out to Chris C. and Chris H. There's a Cole S., Jason O., Stephen B., Robinson M., Yvonne V., Matt N., and Chris Z. Thanks, guys, for reaching out to me with your questions. And I really love the questions, because it gives me an insight as to what things are going on in everybody's minds, and some of the burning questions that they have. That when I can address those questions, I oftentimes will look at those questions and say, what, that's something I'm going to start doing. I'm going to do a show on, because it's an important question that I hadn't really thought about before. And by somebody asking the question to me, I can then go back into one of our episodes and just create the show and go into much more detail into that topic. So thanks everybody for reaching out. I really do appreciate all the comments and feedback. Now, getting into this episode, are you too busy earning a living to earn any real money? That was a huge question. And when I really think about that question, it really motivated me to start talking about sort of my experience and what has got me to where I am today. But to talk about it from a sense of what some of the frustrations are that I went through in my life and my career, because I found many times I got bogged down with the BS and the stuff that really didn't make any money or any sense that for me to spend my time on. So I really started looking at what is important for me to be spending my time on, and so I thought we'd talk about a little bit about that today. Now, it's a huge episode. Chances are pretty good we're going to break this into 2 episodes. So because I know we've got I've got your ear for a certain period of time, but once it goes beyond a certain time, I think it makes sense to split it into 2 shows. So in any event, that's what we're going to do. We're just going to dive right into it and take as long as we need to get this topic dealt with, because it's a big topic. Now, we all know these people, and these people are people that I came across when I first started out in business. And I think everybody has their fair share of who these people are. We all know them. They're the ones who we read about and hear about, and who others are always talking about, and they refer to when defining success in this business. Now, they're the so-called elite. The elite in this business. They're the ones who seem to be able to only work with high net worth clients. They're the ones who write books about their success. And when you read their books, your first emotion, well, at least my first emotion, is usually a sense of frustration. Frustration because it brings you face to face with your own perceived inadequacies. But, we continue to read and follow these advices because our hope is that we'll get one little thing, that one gem of an idea that could change our lives forever, that could change our business forever. This, I believe, is akin to winning the lottery. The odds are simply against you. The odds are against you because what's missing is that their success path, the one that got them to be able to do what they're doing, it's not your path. Their path works for them. And that's why it worked for them, because it was designed by them. Now, I'm not saying that what I'm about to say is the case for all of these people, okay, because I'm going to get into some stuff here that I think might be a little controversial. So I'm not saying that what I'm about to say is the case for all these people that I'm talking about. But after having been in this business now for over 20 years, I can say that my next statement is somewhat appropriate for most of them. What I'm saying is most of it is crap. Their business is crap. Their business model is crap. Their success was short-lived. Okay, so let me dive into this a little bit. I remember in my early years, the number of new advisors who suddenly showed up on the scene with huge production numbers. They won awards. They won exotic trips. They were the rookie of the year. They were, members of at some of the finest social clubs around the city. They appeared to have it all. Well, the more I looked into things, and at first I was like, man, how do these guys do it? What am I doing wrong? When I look at these people and I say, wow, I don't get how they're just making so much from a production standpoint. And it was just, it blew me away. Well, here's what they had. Okay, this is what they had going for them at the time. So I'm going to talk about 3 advisors that I've come across in my life. I'm not going to name them because that would be basically throwing them under a bus, but I am going to talk about their experience, okay, and the experience that they went through. So advisor number 1. So this is a guy, he had a business that was built on the premise that true wealth was only created through leverage. Every client he came into contact with borrowed money to invest in mutual funds. Now, it's no wonder his production levels were so high. It was all borrowed money. He didn't care. He just cashed his commission checks, had some great trips, and went on his merry way. I mean, basically, everybody, to this guy, okay, he was a hammer, and everybody he met was a nail. I mean, that he had the one solution. That's all he promoted. And he basically twisted things and crafted things so that at the end of the day, he would put people into a leverage situation. In most cases, it was completely inappropriate. In every case, the client lost because we went through some major corrections during that time period. His rise to the top came crashing down when the realities of the risk of what he was doing were brought to the forefront in a market correction. Margin calls just basically came crashing in, pissed off clients ensued. Investment dealers were put in a really tough spot at this point because I'm sure this wasn't the only guy doing this. I'm sure the investment dealers had lots of guys that were doing this because it was just generating revenue. Well, they were put in a tough spot because although they liked the revenues being generated by these types of advisors, they had to bring in, compliance tests to ensure that their risks were minimized. This quickly shut down the production of the advisor. This quickly pushed the advisor to another path. And I'll be honest with you, the last time I checked, this advisor is now in the real estate business. So he's not even in the financial business or the investment business is what he was in before. Everything was basically around a fad, so to speak. And it was during a time when markets were, consistently rising year over year. And it seemed to work in the short run. But all of a sudden, he just wasn't basically paying attention to the overall risks of the structure. Now, he made a lot of money, he was recognized, and he won all those trips, but at the end of the day, it didn't last. Now, advisor number 2. Now, his production was simply phenomenal for one guy. I mean, over the top. His office was located inside an accounting firm, a fairly large, accounting firm, and the firm just fed him clients, it seemed like every day he had new clients coming in. Every single client was put into a deferred sales charge account, regardless of the size. Now, we're talking $1 million plus accounts. These weren't small accounts. These were some fairly heavy hitters that were coming in. And he just basically moved them in and migrated them into a DSC plan and made a tremendous amount of commission off that. Then, and this is the horrible part, the advisor would regularly then peel off funds and move them into another deferred sales charge product. So basically, it was a churning process. So I mean, you take $1 million and generate a 5% DSC commission. Okay, so there's $50,000 that he just earned from basically placing a trade. Then he would move 100,000 of that million, so 10%, into another DSC and earn another 5%. Now that's $55,000 in revenue on one client for that year. Yes, and this, simply in my opinion, this is wrong. Wrong on so many levels. Then, when the next market correction took place and clients' accounts were way down, this advisor's story was to meet with the clients and tell them that they would be better off in a guaranteed product. So things like segregated funds from an insurance company or, and this was fueled by the banks, protected notes. He would pull them out at the client's expense, of course, and move them into these new products, earning another 4 to 5% commission on the entire book of business. Clients were told that their funds were guaranteed. Basically, he just played off of the fears of clients, whether it was in their best interest or not. He wasn't there to protect clients from themselves. He was just there to do with the client, to basically find a way to generate revenue through simply churning the account. So clients were told that their funds were guaranteed, which, is correct to a certain point. Problem was, it was only a half truth. When clients looked into things, they found that the funds were only guaranteed upon maturity, which was 10 years from the date that they purchased it. But if they needed the funds in the short term, they were subject to basically the current market value. I mean, ouch. If you're a client and you don't realize that, and then you go to make a redemption or something like that, and you think, oh, well, it's, it's guaranteed. The reality is it's not in those situations. But he didn't care. He just cashed his commission checks and went along his merry way. He's no longer in the business, by the way. I mean, are you surprised? Basically, he was just, as compliance came in, it was just his whole model was built on such shaky ground that nobody wanted him as an advisor, and basically was pushed out of the business. Now, advisor number 3, who was, funny thing was, he was a friend of advisor number 2. Surprise, surprise. Anyways, then there's advisor number 3. So this guy, he had 2 mutual funds that he supported. One was at company A, and one was at company B. And they were pretty much polar opposite funds. So here's what he did. The story went something like this. To his clients, he would say, okay, the fund at company A, really strong, had a really strong track record, top performer, blah, blah, blah. It was just, great for all these reasons. So we would put clients, their entire portfolio into this fund. Now, the fund was well diversified, and he could promote it, as being well diversified. And so they purchased it. The fund was purchased on a DSC basis. Then 6 to 9 months later, he would go in and take a look and just assess the performance. So he would do a review with the client. Now, this is what would happen. If the fund was way up, let's say the markets did move forward and suddenly it was way up, he would say to the client, now's the time to take these above average profits before they get lost to a downturn. Okay. On the surface, again, sounds like a good idea. So he would then sell the entire portfolio and move it into fund company B's high-profile fund. So the story seemed logical on the surface to, what would be considered an uninformed client. So, because you can't complain. I mean, it's difficult for a client to complain about taking a profit, even if doing so costs you 5% as a penalty fee. I mean, take 20% return, reduce it by 5%, is a 15% return still acceptable? Yeah, I mean, most people would say, yeah, that's fine. But you see, the problem was it was the motivation behind why this was being done that really, began to be taken into question. Then, guess what the guy did? The funds were then deposited into fund company B's top fund, again, on a DSC basis. Then, 6 to 9 months later, review of the performance would ensue. Now, let's assume that the markets fell and the value of the fund went way down. Here's the story that was told to the client. We'd better cut our losses now because, we don't want to get hurt. It makes sense to cut our losses now as opposed to really getting hurt later. Then, guess where the funds landed? You guessed it, right into fund company C's top performing fund, again, on a DSC basis. Now, do you see why the dealers love these guys? They were such high earners for the company. And that was this override model just simply made so much money for the dealers that they, they oftentimes just turned a blind eye to what was going on. Now, as long as they did, as they had clients sign off on these trades, they were protected from the regulators. The reality is that most clients wouldn't have known what hit them they wouldn't really know where to turn to get any justice. And the system was, in many cases, and still is, flawed. This type of approach just really, it just sits so wrong in every sense of the imagination. And the reality is right now, compliance has really cracked down on this, and has shut down a lot of these sort of schemes and whatnot. But the bottom line is, that there's an industry that has been built on production and sales first. And in my mind, it's been built completely backwards. Now, the industry is slowly changing. Regulators are stepping in and requiring these what I call once common practices to be shut down, which is good for the industry, but is placing a huge blemish on the industry's credibility. But look at it this way. For this first time ever that I can see, there is a huge opportunity and demand for true, transparent, fee-based financial planning. I mean, look around. The economy has its struggles. The world economy is changing, and people just don't know what to do in order to carve out a slice of security for their own future. This is why today it is great. It's the greatest opportunity we as fee-based financial planners have. And I mean, it's the greatest opportunity I've ever seen. And for those of you who can make it past your first fee presentation and realize how clients will actually say, thank you for doing business the way you do. When you embrace the whole fee-based methodology and you follow the process that I recommend, when you meet with clients, these are the experiences you're going to have. If you can get past that first fee presentation, which is honestly the hardest part, the hardest presentation you will ever give. But if you follow the process that we recommend and get through that, your clients will thank you for doing business the way you do. They'll thank you for listening to and addressing their needs. They're going to thank you for providing them with the wisdom and leadership that they so desperately need. And they're going to thank you for doing one thing that very few people are doing. You're making things simple for them. And they're going to thank you for that. They're going to say, you know what, I am totally willing to pay you a fee if you can do all this for me. So, taking advantage of that opportunity is huge. And it's something that I really think is, if we're not embracing it, you know what, the industry is changing. And, in some parts of the world, this has already become a reality where you just simply cannot earn embedded commissions. And if you don't have a way of illustrating and showing your value, then things are just going to get away from you. But even with the recognition that fee-based financial planning, recognizing that fee-based financial planning is needed, it has really not fully been embraced by the industry. And I think it's because of one thing. The industry finds it difficult to create a business case that's profitable. They honestly, I don't think the industry has figured out a way to make fee-based financial planning a profitable venture. Because the whole, the industry can't see the potential because they're so hooked on the crack-like effects of the DSC that they have a tremendous amount of fear surrounding the perceived withdrawal effects that this will, that what this is going to do to their business. So just like a crack addict, the reason why they keep going and they keep on taking the next hit is because they're so afraid. Well, first of all, it's addictive, and that's the whole premise behind crack. But they're afraid of the withdrawal, the coming down. It's sort of getting clean, and all that is very, very difficult. And I perceive that that's very similar in the financial planning world, that people just haven't been able to figure out. They've built their lives and their lifestyle and their business and their existence based on this commission-based model. And the reality is you've got to cut the cord on that, and you've got to find a way around it. So the problem that I again see is simply that the industry just hasn't been able to find a business case that's profitable. So now understand that there is a business model that will stand the test of time. I know because each of the advisors I talked about are no longer in the business. And guess what? I still am. Now, don't think that all successful advisors are crooks. I don't want to paint that picture because they're not crooks. I just wanted to share with you some of the struggles that I faced when I was a rookie because I couldn't see what they were doing at the time. And I always felt inadequate and frustrated because I couldn't figure out how to hit the production volume these guys were hitting. But when you come to realize that it was all smoke and mirrors and that they were hitting their production heights on the backs of their clients, it shows how short-term gains very rarely, well, actually never, translate into long-term success. So the big takeaway and learning experience here is there is always another side to every single story. Okay, so what then are the elite firms doing that is different from the masses? And this is, again, this is a very important component because we need to identify what is it that these, elite advisors, the ones who are just, knocking it out of the park, what is the one thing that they're doing that we potentially aren't? Well, the one thing that I've recognized is that they focus. Now, here's one of those frustrating statements that I can't stand. I just said they focus. What does it mean? What does that mean to focus? I mean, we also, I focus every day. I'm determined and I sit down. Well, let me explain what I mean by focus. all elite firms, they have a clear understanding of what it is that they do for their clients. And they also have a clear understanding of what it is that they don't do for their clients. That's important because if you don't know what it is that you do and what it is that you don't do, you will basically accept clients into your business that you shouldn't, or you will start doing things that will take you out of your comfort zone and not in a good way. It's going to add a tremendous amount of stress to you. All elite firms, they charge appropriately for the services that they provide. And their services are a true extension of their core unwavering beliefs. Beliefs so strong that there is nothing you can say or do to make them think any other way. They take a leadership role and deliver their leadership through their core services. So think of what I've just said here. You need to really get a clear understanding about what it is, what your true beliefs are. When it comes to financial planning, what do you believe to be, if you could just remove everything, remove all the mess and noise and everything, what is the core that you feel needs to be put in place for you to, either for yourself or for your clients, for you to put together a financial plan that will create success, that will be successful? All right? Well, you need to then determine and really get clear on what that core belief is. Follow that. I mean, what investment philosophy do you believe in? What's your insurance philosophy? Do you believe in permanent insurance? Do you believe in term insurance? Do you believe in living benefits? Do you believe in, what are the solutions that you think make the most sense? In other words, what are you doing for yourself? This is one thing that I've never understood is that, people who, and these are financial planners. Financial planners, when I talk with them and we really get down to the details, I find oftentimes the strategies that they're recommending to their clients, they're not doing for themselves. This guy who was borrowing to, having all of his clients borrow to invest. I don't know if he was maybe doing it in a small way, but he wasn't doing it to the same magnitude that he was recommending their clients. I can't in good faith recommend any investment unless I'm actually willing to put my own money there. So the first transaction we do with any investment solution is always our own. I want my clients to know I'm there too. This isn't something I'm recommending to you just because I think it's good for you. This is something I'm recommending to you because this is good, and I have so much belief that it's good that I'm putting my own money there. So every single, for my own purpose, every investment solution that we have, I have my family's money in. And that is a big statement, because if you can't say that, then number one, it probably means you've got too many investment solutions. And number two, do you really know what it is you're investing in, and why are your funds not invested in the same place that your clients' funds? Why are the insurance solutions you're recommending to your clients, why do you not have them? Are you recommending living benefits? Are you recommending long-term care insurance? Do you have any yourself? Your number one client really should be yourself. And if you don't have all of the solutions in place, then you really you haven't committed to it. And I think that's an important part. So once you've done that, you have a better sense of what do you feel is an appropriate charge for the services that you provide. Now, all elite firms create systems and workflows to ensure a consistent client experience is achieved every single time. These same systems and workflows also allow these elite firms to manage their business easily. They also allow for something that all of you who have listened to my previous shows know is near and dear to my heart. These systems allow you to build a lifestyle business. Remember, this business that you're building, you're not building it for any other purpose other than to create a lifestyle for yourself. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to build it on the backs of anybody. You do need to add value. You do need to make sure that what your core beliefs are something that are so desirable from other people that you are going to be able to attract the clients. But you need to design the business, because if you're not happy, and I talked about this in a previous episode, if you're not happy, then you don't have the energy to give back to your clients. It's kind of like that theory that for those of you who have flied, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When you sit down and the stewardess basically stands at the front or the middle of the plane, and they go through the pre-flight instructions, what do they say when they say, okay, if you see the masks pop down, what's the first thing that they say? Well, the first thing they say is, put it on yourself first. Why? Because if you don't put it on yourself first, you may not be able to help the person next to you. So if you don't take care of yourself first, if you don't design a business around your lifestyle, you will not have the energy to stick with it, to give back to your clients as strongly as you need to. So really, really focus on that. The workflows and systems, are just tools to allow you to create that, and I say this, but I don't mean it in a negative way, the McDonald's experience. The one thing that's great about McDonald's is every time you go, their fries taste the same every single time. Why? Because they've got such a routine, a workflow for making those fries that if you go to China, if you go to the States, if you go to anywhere in the world, those fries are going to taste the same. That's what you need to do to get the consistency in your business. You need to have workflows and systems in place so that you can achieve the same results every time when it comes to your financial planning, how you put together a financial plan, the conversations that you have at various stages, the order in which the conversations take place. You need to have that. And once you've got that in place, I remember a statement. I can't remember the exact statement, but basically it was said by Dan Sullivan, and he said something to the tune that, the Four Seasons Hotel is a place that he's talked about in many examples. But basically he says they systematize the predictable so that they can free themselves up to do the unexpected. All right. Many of you may have heard the example or the story that he gives, that he was, I don't know if it was a client of his or whatever, and who knows, I'm probably bastardizing the story a little bit. But basically, there was a person who was sitting, waiting for a meeting to take place, and they were waiting in the lobby. And one of the concierge came over and said, "Excuse me, sir, but I don't mean to interrupt, but I've just noticed that the hem on your pants has fallen. And it's going to come out, and it just isn't going to look very good. And I know you're probably waiting to meet with some people, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And here I brought with me a needle and a thread, so I'll quickly sew it up for you. But it's not going to solve the problem, so you will have to get it hemmed. But I know it's just going to make a bit of a difference for you for today's meeting. Now, the message behind that is, that experience that particular patron had was phenomenal. You think they're not going to tell everybody about that experience? Well, how did that experience happen? Well, it happened because that concierge person, their system, the workflow, everything that they do was so routinized? Is that the word? It was such a routine that it gave them the freedom to look around to see what's out of place. And it gave them the freedom to recognize, that particular person, this is going to cause them some problems, so I'm going to go make their life better. It gave them the freedom to do that. So if you can systematize your business in such a way where everything sort of just happens, just like a conveyor belt, happens the same way every single time, then that's going to free you and your staff up for allowing you to recognize the other little things that you can do that are unique to your particular clients that will make their lives better. Now, an elite firm hires good people. And this ties directly into the workflows and systems, okay? Hiring good people doesn't necessarily mean talented people, although that's important. It means good people. People with good ethics, people with good morals, people with good beliefs. Those are certain things it's very difficult to train into a person. People who know how to have fun, okay, like to add value, to do what it is that they do. In the workflows and systems you create will show them what they need to do to be successful. So, a good leader always delegates. So you being the leader, a good leader always delegates to good people, but ensures that the delegation is setting these people up for success. I can't stress that point enough. Too often people will hire people and then just dump a whole bunch of stuff on their desk. Just dump whatever it is that they don't want to do on them. And the person who then is receiving it, maybe it's something they like to do, but they're not given a lot of guidance. They're not given a lot of, direction. Well, one of the problems with that is that if you're not setting your staff up for success, you're basically setting them up for failure. So when you delegate, you need to be able to delegate in such a way that these people know they're going to get to a successful result. That's what your responsibility is. When you create your workflows and systems, you need to put those systems in place so that they lead you to a successful result. And you need to train people on how to design these systems and how to look for systems that aren't leading to a successful result every single time. Now, all elite firms align themselves with the best. Now, it's not hard to find the best in this business. They're the ones who stand behind their word. In other words, their word is their bond. They're the ones who own their mistakes and then do whatever it takes to fix their mistakes. They're the ones who you can always rely on to do the right thing. I've had many experiences with various investment counseling firms and, because we and other specialists that we refer out to. And I tell you, I do not take any crap from these people because I expect them to be an extension of our business. And if one thing goes wrong and it was something that could have been avoided that they did and they don't own up to it and they don't fix their mistake and make the client whole again, instantly, I stop doing business with them, and we find a way to start directing our business out of their firm. You see, because I can't afford it, and you know what? I'm not going to back a bad horse. So we want to make sure anybody that we're working with, and this is something I recommend you bring into your sort of what are the terms? Your immutable laws, right? Well, my immutable law is no dicks allowed. Or one of my mutable laws is no dicks allowed. I will not stand for somebody who's just not going to treat my client the way I would treat the client. I've had to reach into my pocket in various times to make a client whole again. If there was something that was done wrong on my end that caused a problem for a client, I will make it right, even if it costs me money. And, I've had my staff screw up. We've all had it. It's happened. When it happens, I don't like it, but we own up to it. And we look clients straight in the eye and say, we're going to fix it and we're going to bring it and we're going to make it right. In some cases, we've made things right that clients didn't even think were wrong. One situation was we had a client where a monthly contribution didn't start when it was supposed to because the custodian just for some reason didn't start it. So what did we do? We went back and asked ourselves, okay, would the client, because we were making up for the contribution we're going to make up for, let's say it was $1,000 a month and it was missed for 2 months. So now we're in the third month. So the client now has a choice. We say, listen, you can start the pack now and we'll do a retroactive contribution and make the past 2 months that we do the $2,000 that was missed, and we'll put that contribution in today. Well, one of the things we've done in the past is we've gone back and said, but if the pack had started on time, would that client be in a better or worse position than by putting the money in today? And we do the analysis. Now, when we go back to the client, we say to them, listen, we can now start the pack, and here's what we'd recommend you do, and here's why. Because we went back and we determined that you're actually in a financially better position by not backdating, or you're in a financially better position by backdating the contribution to the date that it should have happened. And we do that. Now, clients say to me, geez, I never even thought about that, Well, when I go back to a client, and this happened to one client, I went back and I said, listen, if we put the contribution in today, you're actually going to be in a better position because, we've just done the math and the markets went in a certain direction, and it's better for you to put the money in today than it is to backdate it. And we went and figured it out, and you're this much better from a dollar perspective. Well, I tell you, this one client said, wow, I never even thought that was, that never even occurred to me, but thank you so much for taking that extra step and going back to determine if I'm in a better or worse position. Well, I tell you, that speaks volumes when a client knows that you're looking out for them that way. So that's what I expect the firms that I partner with to do. And in every case, we had a situation with a case that we'd worked on with it was an insurance case. And a certain thing was supposed to happen at a certain time. And it was somebody else was supposed to make sure that it happened. And they didn't make sure it happened. And we caught it and went back and said, hey, this was supposed to happen. And they said, you know what? We looked at this. Our calculation shows that the client has paid this much too much for their coverage over that time period because we were supposed to do something by reducing their coverage or whatever. So we are going to deposit that money back into the client account to bring them whole again. Well, I tell you, that spoke volumes to me. That is a firm that I continue to do business with today because of that one thing. You know what? It wasn't even a big dollar figure that they had to put back in. So they could have just skipped it and said, okay, well, we missed it. We'll make the adjustment now. But, the fact that they took it to that extra effort, that to me, that's what I would do. And that just said, I'm working with the right company here. So, keep that in mind. Hiring good people and aligning yourself with the best, it's not hard to do when you have those demands and you have those beliefs, and that's how you do business. And you can say to them square up that if you don't follow this, and if this isn't the way you're going to do business, you're detracting from the value of my client, and we're no longer going to do business with you. They'll either shape up pretty quickly or you just move on. Now, all elite firms educate first because they know that an educated client is a better client. An educated client has less fear. What's the one thing? The one thing I know about fear is that knowledge eliminates fear. So we want to educate our clients. An educated client can articulate your value. When they know what it is that you do, and they have a true understanding for what it is that you do, they will simply be able to tell other people about what it is that you do. And that's important because if you're trying to be referable, I know there's coaches that are out there that are trying to teach people how to be more referable. Well, I tell you, it's not that difficult. Just simply teach your clients what it is that you do. I talked about it in a previous episode. If you spent time prepping for a meeting and analyzing, let the client know. Say, listen, over the weekend I was thinking about you, knowing that our meeting was coming up, and I went in and did some research on your file, and I just wanted to go through that research with you. There's nothing wrong in marketing your preparation services that you've actually looked at the client account and you sort of did a summary of the client before you met with them. Clients just like knowing that you're thinking about them. So tell them that you are. An educated client is simply a happier client. And when they're happier and they can articulate your value, and value oftentimes it comes in weird ways. We have a situation happening right now where my assistant, or one of my assistants, has been talking to these particular clients about various places that they can stay in Florida. Now, my assistant, Jill, she happens to have been in Florida a handful of times, and there's a place that she goes. She went there for her honeymoon, and she loves it. And she thought, in talking with these particular clients, she thought that they would love it too. And so she said, hey, you know what? You guys are just in the process of retiring, and you're thinking about spending more time in Florida. I would highly recommend this place. First of all, it's very dog or pet friendly, and these clients have a dog. And I think it's something you would like. Well, it's amazing. This particular client emailed Jill while they were down south and said, I wanted to just thank you so much for making that recommendation. We absolutely love it here. We've actually booked next year 2 months worth. We love it so much. Thank you so much. Then what they did, they called Jill and wanted to talk to her personally. I tell you, that has gone, I know that's going to go so far because clients then recognize, and this is another example how we've systematized our process so much that Jill then had the opportunity to recognize, hey, wait a minute, I can take a pause from what I'm doing while the client's here, have a conversation with the client, and recognize, hey, you might be interested in something that I have already experienced. It sounds like it would fit right in with what you're looking for. So, it's all of that starts to come full circle. So, then when a client can articulate that value, because this client has actually referred quite a few clients to us, I have a feeling that I don't know exactly what they're saying, but I have a feeling it has more to do with the fact that we listen more than anything, that the financial planning is good, but it has more to do with the fact that the other things, the smaller things that we aren't, it's hard for people to put their finger on, the things that show that you care. An elite firm, well, all elite firms do this. They pick the weeds out of their business to allow more of the water to flow to where it is best utilized. Now, this concept is not a concept I created, but it is one that I truly believe in. And it was one I struggled with for a long time. It's a concept behind a book called The Pumpkin Plan. And if you haven't got this book, again, I recommend you go get it. It's such a great book. Mike Michalowicz is the author. If you want to link to it in the recommended reading section on our website, I've got a copy of it there, so you can just click on that. It takes you right to Amazon, and you can purchase it there. But basically, that's the book I'm talking about. It's called The Pumpkin Plan, written by Mike Michalowicz. And this book will make you realize that you can't and should not work with everyone. But for those that you should work with, you should nourish them like crazy. It is such a strong, I don't know again what the term is, but it is so powerful when you identify who it is that you work best with. And you know what? That can be 2 or 3 different groups of people. You don't need to niche it down to one particular type. But when you recognize who it is that you work best with, and you create your systems so that everything is focused on that, everybody who's kind of outside of that system, well, a few things happen with them. Well, one thing is they actually start to suck resources away from the clients who really deserve them. Now, these are also people who may not value some of the other services that you provide. And what I recommend is that you find another firm or another advisor or somebody who you feel is more appropriate for those particular clients, and either sell that book or refer that book over to that advisor. You're going to do so much more for your business. What I've found is times that I've done that, it's actually worked out better because clients are I've had some clients call me back after I made the referral over to a new advisor saying, hey, thanks so much for putting me in touch with so-and-so. I mean, I love her. I think she's great. Or he's just a breath of fresh air, and I really appreciate it. I know, it didn't make sense for us to continue working together, but I really appreciate you sort of turning me on to somebody that was really appropriate. Okay, so, you can sell your book, you can do whatever you want, but just make sure that you are paying more attention, not to the price that you're going to get for the book, but to the advisor that you're referring them to. That make sure it is a good fit. And if you have different segments of your client base, maybe break them into 2 different books if you're going to consider selling them, and find 2 different advisors to service them. It'll just be so much better for everybody involved. Now, this is so the picking the weeds. I mean, it is important. It's difficult. It can be stressful, but it's something that I find makes a lot of sense, because as you start to grow, you just can't do everything for everybody, and so you shouldn't. Now, we've gone at this episode so far. We have hit. Well, I'm coming up to about. Coming up to almost 50 minutes now. So I think we're hitting the end of our time slot for this particular episode. But I do have a lot more to say. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this episode into a second part. And the next part, we're going to dive into all those different things. So each of these items that elite advisors do, we're going to go and do a deep dive into each one, so that you can take a look at your business and how your business is in relation to each particular one, each of these particular items. So we're going to take a look at having a clear understanding of what it is that you do for your clients. So getting really, really clear on that. I'm going to talk you through exactly how to do that, how to charge appropriately for your services, and some really interesting experiences that we've had with this. Creating systems and workflows and automation where you can, and how we do that. We're going to talk about hiring properly and some of the tools and techniques that we've used to make it work for us, how to align yourself with the best and what's important about that. And we're also going to talk about educating clients first and what needs to be done and how you can do that. And the final one, we are going to take a real deep dive into picking the weeds out of your clients and how to do it properly, how to identify who are weeds and who aren't, and just make sure that it works for you. Because everything that we're trying to do here in this show, everything I'm trying to do is trying to help you build yourself a better business. And so hopefully these topics are going to be something of interest. So stay tuned for the next episode where we do a deep dive into each one of those topics. And in the meantime, if you have any other questions or if you have anything along the way, definitely send me a note, send me an email, put some comments in the show notes. One thing I will also touch on is that we've had just a wonderful first session of the Academy. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to be opening up the Academy very shortly. So if you haven't gone to ilovefinancialplanning.com and registered yourself to be notified when the next session of the Academy opens up, we don't open it up for long because we have to jump into getting the Academy started for the next session. And I think a lot of the results and the comments, there's over 100 comments that have been put into the Academy right now. And I think they're just so valuable, all the deep dives that we do there. So if you're at all interested in finding out more about the Academy, go to ilovefinancialplanning.com and register there to be notified when the next session gets released. We're looking at probably releasing in the next month or so. I don't exactly know when, so to be notified of that, just go on that list. But anyways, all this is being put together to simply get out to help you build a better business. So what am I going to say to you now is get out there and build yourself a better business.
You've been listening to Scott E. Plaskett, a certified financial planner and industry veteran in the world of fee-based financial planning. Want free resources to help you build a better fee-based financial planning firm? Visit ilovefinancialplanning.com right now to register for Scott's Inner Circle email list, where you'll get front-of-the-line updates on the latest resources that are driving profits to Scott's fee-based financial planning practice. All of the resources are pulled directly from the highly acclaimed Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery Academy. Go now to ilovefinancialplanning.com. Build a better business and make more money with your fee-based financial planning practice today.